There's so many legends in this building today.
Legendary.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to Legendary, the podcast. I am Jonas Sr, and today is a special day. This is the first day of our sons doing their residency at the Marquee Theater in New York. And as I reminisce about all that they've done throughout their career, I think it's amazing that they chose to go to New York, where they had Broadway experience, where they had commercials early in their career, to go back and for the fans in that incredible city, in that incredible area, and to put on shows where they literally go through 5 of their albums, from the self-titled album to a little bit longer, obviously Lines, Vines, and Trying Times, Happiness Begins, and the upcoming record, the album. So excited for them. From what I understand, the response has been unbelievable with the number of people that wanted tickets. I think the theater seats somewhere around 1,600 people, and well north of 100,000 people tried to get those tickets, if not multiplied times that. So very excited for them. Very excited for the people that were able to get in the door. I know people that were traveling internationally, people that were traveling across the nation, people that unfortunately have paid more than the face value of the tickets. But for all of you that are going, I hope you have the most amazing time. I'll be there later this week to go to a show myself because I'll be in New York for a meeting. But it causes me to reminisce. It causes me to think through some of the things that we've seen, some of the things they've seen, some of the things other artists that I've worked with have seen. And so today I just wanted to take some time to speak to you guys from my heart. It's one of those times where I wanted to talk as the dad of these wonderfully talented young guys, but also as a manager of talent, as a guy that has worked in the talent space. And I thought today it would be good to just give you some of the advice that I consider to be vital, things that could help you. I know that there are people out there that want to be in the music business, in entertainment, that want to further their careers on the actual behind the camera side of it. But today I wanted to speak specifically to the artist out there. If you're an artist and you are beginning your journey, I wanted to take some time to just give you some advice, to look you in the eyes as a manager, as a dad of talented, amazingly talented kids, and who knows what the grandkids will show as their talent and drive. But if you're out there and you're an artist, I thought I would just take some time to speak to you about some things that I think are important for you to consider as you are considering your journey. Now, your talent may be in music, your talent may be as a singer or as a songwriter. Regardless of what it is, I'm here to speak to you today and just speak from my heart to yours and say, I want to encourage you. There are enough discouraging voices out there, but I want to encourage you because you're probably sitting somewhere in the world and wondering, what can you do? I'll preface it by saying none of it, my advice is the Bible. It's not infallible. It is coming from my experience in my heart, but some tested and true things that I think are important. So I'm going to give you just a set of things that I hope you will find encouraging, that you can use for your life. So here are a few rules for developing artists that I'm excited to share with you. Number 1, believe in yourself. If you have a talent and you have a drive and you feel like you have potentially even a calling, believe in yourself. It is a world with a lot of naysayers, a lot of negative Nellies, if you will, that will tell you that you're not good enough, that this is just a pipe dream. That may be your parents, it may be your siblings, it may be the people around you. If you're in a small town, you may be surrounded by people that say you should be satisfied to be a big fish in a little pond. When I first started my journey as an artist, an independent artist, I had family members that said, why do you need to go on to school? Why do you need to pursue your music? You can do that from here. In fact, the quote was, why don't you work in the cotton mill? And there was nothing wrong with working in a cotton mill. Some of the best people in the world, my grandmother, my grandfather, generations of Jonases and beyond that worked in the cotton mills in our region of North Carolina. Why don't you just work in the cotton mill and you can go anywhere from here? You can do anything from here. I would have missed a lot of my calling, settling for what was normal and acceptable and even noteworthy. It wouldn't have been my calling. So I would say believe in yourself, and don't let any voice, even if that is a voice that loves you, don't let anybody tell you, if you have this sense of calling and you have that sense of drive, don't let anybody tell you that you can't. Worst case is you tried. And maybe you tried and failed, but that's okay. Maybe you tried and you had limited success. That's still okay. But you might be that person who tries and has a national or international career. My encouragement to you is believe in yourself enough to try. Don't give up before you try. And don't water it down, because it takes a lot of effort. So the first thing is believe in yourself. The second thing is be the best at it that you can possibly be. One of the best bits of advice I ever received. Somebody came to me and they said, Kevin, if you're writing songs, don't compare yourselves to the people around you that write songs. And my response was, well, but that's all I know. And they said, well, don't compare yourself to the other songwriters you're around. Compare your songs and compare yourself to the people that are winning Grammys for Song of the Year. Then you'll grow. So if you are in a small town, if you are limited right now, don't look around you and go, well, my stuff's at least as good as the people I'm surrounded by right now. Go out there and compare yourself to the people that are writing the hits, that are writing the best stuff. And then you will find your songs improving. If you have a chance, if you're a sports focused person, you should play with people that are better than you, and then you will increase your skill. I would say the same is really true in songwriting. Do your best to be around people that are better than you, that you admire. Get in the room with those people if you can, and then absorb, be a sponge, and take everything from them that you possibly can. I had some writers that I was around, and I'm telling you, the best thing for me was to just get in a room with them and not just observe, step out there, try to exert my gift, but also keep my antennas up for the things that they were doing that worked, the questions they asked that mattered, the things they did to build a great song. I've told many of my artists, be a sponge in the room, absorb everything you possibly can, steal from them. And I'm not talking steal their ideas, steal their music lick, steal their lyric idea. I'm talking about absorbing their craft, absorbing their process, so that you're improving and getting better. And eventually you'll be in the room that people are absorbing from. The other thing that I would say as a bit of advice is take the opportunities that come your way. You might say, well, that's too small. Nothing's too small. Because even if it's a small gig and a small opportunity, you're going to grow by doing the gig. You're going to grow by being a part of the process. You're going to grow by being in front of people. There's no substitute for testing out your material in front of people. There's no substitute for being an artist in front of people and performing in front of those people. You will become better, and you'll find out what works, and you'll find out what works for you. As I stand in front of people, for many, many years, I was just imitating other people, but then I started to find what worked for me. And what I try to pull out of the artists that I work with is, what is it that works for you? What can you do that's special for you, that makes you stand out from others. And it may be the way you sing, it may be the way you deliver it, it may be your posture on stage, it may be your energy and the way you move, it may be your eye contact. Whatever it is, you're not going to know it until you do it. And so my encouragement to you is don't shrink back from opportunities, big or small. If you have an opportunity to play at a coffee house, play at a coffee house. People have been discovered in a coffee house. If you have the opportunity to open for somebody, even if it costs you money, do your best to be out there. Now, be wise about your money, but take the opportunity and do your best to shine, whatever the opportunity is. Everybody would love to be on the road with Ed Sheeran. Everybody would love to be on the road right now with Morgan Wallen. Of course, they're killing it. But before you get there, you're probably doing a writer's round. You're probably doing a coffee shop. You're probably doing a church gym, and that's okay. One of my first performances was actually in a living room in a pastor's home who was starting a church. And I had traveled across the nation to get there. I had put a lot of money into the vehicle. We bought a van. We had to put work into it on the way across the nation. 3 of the 4 tires I had went flat and I had to replace them. I spent money that was sacrificial, and I get across the nation and I'm in the living room, and there are more with me in the group of people that traveled than there were in the living room. But it was one of the nicest love gifts that I had received. We didn't have actual fees and guarantees. It was whatever the people felt inspired to give, and those people gave sacrificially, helped me pay off my ability to travel during that time. Do not despise a small beginning. And I learned a lot having a little boom box and my songs on tape and performing and pouring my heart out long before I had a band, long before I was traveling, long before I was playing and comfortable playing in front of people. I literally had a boom box in a living room, but that provided for my life. And it taught me a lot about performing. So take the opportunities that come. There's nothing too small. And the minute you start thinking, well, it's too small, it doesn't really matter, you're going to miss an opportunity for you to grow and to start building your fan base. Concerning your fan base, a bit of advice I would give you is every person matters. One super fan is going to devote themselves to you. You look at what's going on with my sons right now. A bunch of super fans are trying to get into the show. They came out to Vegas. They'll support them on future tours. They'll support each release. If the boys did something where they're showing up in the middle of the night to buy their record, those are the fans that are going to be there, and they'll be there with you long term. So start building your fan base. I heard about an evangelist many years ago that everybody who went to his show and bought, back then it was a cassette tape, everybody who bought an album or a cassette tape, he took down their name and their address. Now today that would be an email or it would be their social media contact, but he took it down because every person that went out of their way to buy anything from you and get into their wallet, which is the last thing to come, their money, they dug into their wallet and they spent money. He made sure he had their email address. People were shocked later on in his career that everything he released sold hundreds of thousands of copies, if not millions of copies, because he had built up a mailing list that was second to none. I encourage you, take down the email addresses, take down the addresses, take down the social media, have them follow you on social media. Still to this day, text messages are powerful, emails are powerful. Social media is powerful, but make sure you're staying current with the things people are doing today. You might say, well, I don't want to be on TikTok. Well, a lot of music is discovered on TikTok. Make sure you encourage people to follow you. Make sure every time you stand up, they can see your handles for each of your social media. Papa Jonas, at Papa K Jonas. Make sure they see it and make sure they follow you, because if they follow you, they're going to get your message. And they're more likely to get your message. If they're willing to give you their email address or their phone numbers, even better, because then you're in a chat conversation with them. So I encourage you, make sure you take, if you want to succeed, you're going to build it one fan at a time. And along with that, I would tell you, make sure that you're communicating with your fan base. Now, some of you out there who are artists, you're saying, well, I don't know that I'm the kind of artist that is comfortable being on social media 24/7. It's just not good for my mental health. That's valid. And there's nothing I'm saying that is in any way an encouragement for you to do something that it breaks out of your mental and emotional health. However, I would challenge you, if you treat it like a business, it's like going to work every day is difficult, but it's your job. I would treat it as the music business and treat it as your job. But if you can't and stay healthy, because there are haters online and there are people that are saying negative things, what I would encourage you to do is find somebody who will. Find somebody who will respond. Find somebody who will promote you. And if you have to pay for it, count the cost. You know, there's an old saying, no man goes to war without weighing the cost. I would say the next bit of advice for you would be, don't take on this effort without being wise about the fact that it's a business. You're going to spend some money. You're going to sacrifice some money. There were times that we sat down as a family and had a family meeting and we discussed, here's how much we have, and we're willing to bet it, but this is all we have. We have to be realistic that outside of the lines here is more than we have, and it's going to cause some conflict. But this is what we have. But should we or should we not bet it on this opportunity? That's a valid discussion. Weigh it, decide on it. But the likelihood is, if you're going to make music, you're spending a little money, even though you can do a lot of this yourself. If you're going to be out on the road, you're probably going to spend money at first to be out there in front of people. So you want it to be as productive as possible. So make sure you're wise about how much you're willing to spend, how much you're willing to sacrifice, or go get other people that might believe in you and say, hey, I could use some help. It's humbling, it's tough, but there are probably people, especially if you are gifted, I'm sure there are people who will invest in you. Now, we live in a world where that becomes a lot easier. You can crowdsource. You can go to Patreon. You can go to other crowdsourcing avenues and do things. You can literally present yourself to people for a fee. You can provide them with video content. You can provide them with songs. You can go direct until you have a record label, if that's the path you choose to go on. But whatever you do, make sure you do it with the finances in mind. I knew people who went to see my sons, wanted to see them, and wanted to take home a souvenir. So we had t-shirts. If we didn't sell t-shirts, we didn't have gas money. We weighed the cost. There were certain things we could not do because we couldn't afford to do it. Our finances were limited. But we did everything we could within our means. And on top of that, we would sacrifice and sign t-shirts. They would sign t-shirts forever, for an hour or two after a show, making sure that we sold enough merch so that we could go to the next gig. And that's the kind of sacrifice that's necessary. Anybody who tells you that it needs to come to you probably isn't understanding how competitive it is and how many other options people have. They have a ton of options. People right now are being inundated with more music probably than has been presented to the world in the history of the world. For you to break out, it's better if you can perform in front of people. It's better if you can get some exposure. It's obviously better if you can be heard on New Music Friday. But what if you don't get New Music Friday? What if you don't get a premier playlist across one of the streaming services? It's going to come down to how many people have you been in front of? How many people have you impacted? How many people have you shared your music with and your life with that care, that are going to support you at each release? The last thing that I wanted to share with you today is just a bit of advice that I was given early on in my career. And that is that the people that come to see you are worth your best. They're worth your best effort. They're worth your best song. They're worth the sacrifice. I think a lot of artists make the mistake of thinking they're special and the audience are just participants. But my advice that I would give you is treat the audience with respect, and they will pour that back towards you. If you show them that you appreciate them, they will appreciate you in return. If you feed them content, they will show up again for the content when it arrives. If you do lives on TikTok or lives on other platforms, they will come. And if you do it consistently, they will come in great numbers and they will come in force. If you show up for appearances, if you give them opportunity to hear the music early, if you have merch opportunities, if you have opportunities for them to have meet and greets and get signed things and signed lyrics and tattoos and all the rest, they will remember that and never forget it. So my encouragement to you is treat them with respect, treat your audience with respect. And I guarantee you, if you do, they will come back and treat you with respect as well. Well, thank you again for tuning in this week. We have some very, very exciting things in the week coming up. If you can, remember to share. Remember to take the link, to take the various links for the various spots, to follow us, to subscribe on our YouTube. We really want to be able to do this on a weekly basis and continue to share with you. So we look forward to you showing up next week. Remember, this is Legendary, the podcast. I'm Jonas Sr. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.